Welcome to the Digital Real Estate Secrets Podcast, episode 10. And today we're going to be talking about saturation. Is digital real estate saturated? My name is Nick Wood. I've been doing this for a long freaking time. At least it seems like that. I've been doing this for 8 years, since 2016. Had a little hiatus in there, got a little shiny object syndrome, and came back to the promised land and came back to digital real estate. So, guys, before we get into today's topic, I want to make sure everyone's on the same page. When we say digital real estate, we're not talking about the metaverse. We're not talking about selling crypto or NFTs. We are talking about the simplest business model on the internet, and that is building websites. Simple websites with web builders like Weebly, like Wix. If WordPress, if you want to code, that's fine. But for those of us that are normal, we just build on a simple platform, build a website, rank it on Google, rent it to a local business owner. And when we say rent it, we are taking the phone calls that come from this website and we're renting them, we're selling them to a local business owner. That's it. That's the entire model. That's it, right? And we call it digital real estate because it's just like regular real estate investing. Instead of having a house, you have a website. Instead of having tenants, you have a business owner. Instead of giving someone a place to live, you are giving them leads. You are giving them business. And you can go and you can build and you can scale and you can make passive income and you can literally build the life that you want to build and become free. And that's the thing that I've noticed as I've asked people and I've coached now we have over 700 people inside of our paid program, inside of Digital Landlords. And the number one thing that people desire from this is freedom, right? That is what being rich is about. Having freedom, being time free, having location freedom, having financial freedom. And you could go even further, say having freedom of speech and all these things. And a lot of us are trapped in these jobs where if we have a political view, we're fired or we're risking our job. Or if we travel or we want to take time off, we're risking our job. Or if we dress a certain way, we're risking our job, right? And that is a problem. And guys, I don't care what your beliefs are, but whatever it is, whatever put us on this earth, I cannot help but think we weren't put here to work under someone's freaking thumb. I'm a human, you're a human, so let's go create the life that we want to create. Okay, so anyway, guys, again, if you don't know who I am, we've talked about it a million times. I don't want you to believe anything that I say. I want you to test what I say. If it feels like it's something that makes sense, then go and put it to the test. But I don't want you to believe anything that I say. Trust no one, trust nothing, test everything, question everything. And if it's true, it should work. If you actually do it and you do it for a long enough period of time, it will work unless it's false, right? The only reason I feel like I'm qualified at all to talk about this because not because I've been doing it so long, but it's because of not just my successes, which by the way, I've made millions of dollars doing this. And I'm not talking about selling a program. I'm talking about renting simple websites. Okay. Not only have I made the millions, but I've lost the millions. I've gone to $60,000 in debt. I've almost quit twice. I've had my doubts. I've had, like, if you meet somebody that has a really strong belief, a lot of times they doubted. They were the biggest doubters. The biggest doubters become the greatest proselyters. They become the greatest missionaries, right? Because they doubted and then they go through those doubts and now they're the greatest of the greatest and they spread the gospel of digital real estate using a little church reference. So guys, today my promise to you, my goal is that I will give you enough information you need to make your own logical, not emotional, but logical judgment of if this business model is saturated or not. Okay. And really the question isn't, is it saturated? The question is, did I miss my window? Did I miss the opportunity? And, we're always looking for every reason why not to do something. But the question everyone asks is, did I miss the window? Yeah, you've made millions, but I should have got into it in 2016. Okay. Or, yeah, so-and-so made money, but it's always a but. It's always a but. We always have these doubts in our mind. So we're going to talk about that today. Okay. A couple quick things I want to cover that just to kind of like lay some context and preface this, guys, is first and foremost is I understand how humans work. Okay. And I understand how biases work. And I'm going to try my best to not bring any of those biases to this topic today. Okay. Let me give you an example. All of my buddies that are in real estate, that are in mortgages, anything tied to real estate, as things started to change and the interest rates started to go up and the prices of houses started to go up, it's like, hey, what's going on? And we would have these conversations. It was always the topic, right? I love the hope that humans have. It was always, yeah, but Not our situation, right? Yeah, but there's this thing, you see what the Fed said and blah, 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 blah. Or I would love this one. It's like, yeah, but last time in 2008, when there was a downturn, this little pocket that we live in, it didn't really get affected because this, and this. And it's like, sometimes you just got to be real. And so I understand that, I'm going to be a little bit biased naturally. I'm going to try my best not to be, because this is the model that I've chosen to stake my entire future on. It's the model I've made a lot of money in. It's the model that I've brought a lot of people that I care about into. So I understand that, but I'm going to try to be completely unbiased as much as I can and give you guys the actual cold hard facts so that you guys don't think I'm just trying to like live in, rainbows and unicorn land. Okay. So I understand that. The other thing I want to mention is, guys, life is not black and white. Nothing is black and white. And so the better way, instead of saying, is this business model saturated? Is digital real estate saturated? The better question is, how saturated is digital real estate? Because you have two ends of the spectrum. You have no one's doing it and you have everyone's doing it, right? And it's never going to be on one end or the other. It's going to be somewhere in the middle. And so today we're going to talk about how saturated it is. But the reason I put as the topic, is this saturated? Because that's the question that everybody asks. Is they look at it as, there's some definition of saturation. Okay. And I'm here to tell you that nothing is black and white. It's how saturated is it? Okay. So guys, let's get into this. Here's the plan for today. I'm going to be talking about the fact that people, I'm going to give you an overview. We're going to be talking about why everyone and how everyone's always questioning every single model. It's human nature. We're going to talk about how we define saturation. We're going to talk about how many people are actually doing this model. We're going to talk about testing it for yourself. We're going to talk about certain niches that are more saturated than others. We're going to talk about if you see another marketer in a city. We're going to talk about why most people quit. We're going to talk about how many businesses are starting every single day. And we're also going to be talking about other countries that we can do this in. And then there's one or two bonus things. Now, that sounds like a lot. I'm going to cover this in 23 minutes because I'm going to try to keep this episode under 30 minutes. So with that said, guys, let's get into the freaking episode. All right, guys. So first and foremost, I want you guys to understand that you are not alone. People always question every model, but specifically because I'm in this one, I see and I've seen and I hear people questioning this every single day. And I want to let you guys know it is human nature. When I started this in 2016, I saw there were people inside of my first group that I got into that had also been doing this for, 18 months. They started in like 2014. And guess what I thought? Man, I might have missed my window. I might have missed my window. I wish I would have started 2 years ago. And I had that thought back in 2016, right? Now, I went ahead and I continued anyway, and I had my doubts, I had my reservations, but I went on and I made millions of dollars. Okay. Now, after I made the millions of dollars and I had people reaching out, hey, do you teach this? What are you doing? And I decided to start Digital Landlords, which is our private community. I had already made $1 million 2 years in a row renting simple websites. And at that point, when I started, I still got the question, and people would ask me, is this model saturated? Same question I asked 4 years later, or I guess it was actually 5.5 years later. They were asking me. And I'm like, dude, I just got done making $1 million last year. And it's like, yeah, but, okay. I started that in 2021, the very end. So basically 2022, that was like in December, very end, it was Cyber Monday actually of 2021. So like a month left in the year. Okay. And since then, I had a student, one of my students joined, not even at the very beginning. It was a couple months into the year, like March, April, or May, something like that in 2022. And this student just hit like 2, 3 weeks ago, $87,000 per month, is now on a run rate to do $1 million. By the way, this person has actually collected over $1 million within the first, 2 years and some change in his Stripe account. But now he's actually on the $1 million per year run rate, okay? Because he's making $87,000 per month. And guess what? That person started 2.5 years ago, and I'm still getting people asking, is it saturated? You guys are asking that question. I had a buddy call me yesterday that lives in Vegas, and he's been thinking about this and talking about this and asking about this. He's like, dude, you're living the life. You're going to Dubai. You're going to Africa. You're traveling here. Your family's doing this. You got this, that, and the rest. And I try my best to not make it look like it's just good, and I try to paint the bad, and I try to be real. But he's right. I'm living the life that I wanted to live. But you know what he said to me? He's like, dude, just level with me, bro. Like, is it saturated? Like, isn't there like a lot of people doing it now? Same question. I'm like, dude, look I made millions. My student made millions. And by the way, he's not the only person making a lot of money. I have a student doing $40,000 in New Zealand. I have a student doing $40,000 in Australia. I've got students in the US doing $40,000, $50,000. I've got a bunch of 10K a monthers. I got my little brother doing 9,400 bucks a month. I got my another Utah native, Jason Allred, doing $13,600. This is gross, by the way. And people are still asking, is this saturated? Okay. So I just want you guys to know that it's okay to be skeptical. It's human nature to ask this question. Okay. So let's define saturation. And I just went ahead and just did the old Google. How would the internet, how would some of these sources define saturation? And so Investopedia says market saturation arises when the volume of a product or service in a marketplace has been maximized. At the point of saturation, a company can only achieve further growth through new product improvements by taking existing market share from competitors or increasing overall consumer demand. That's the definition of saturation. Okay. But then it's like, okay, well, is there an actual formula? Like, do you take the number of population and we have a certain, like, I don't know what that actual formula looks like, but just based on that freaking wordy definition, I want you to keep that in your mind. That's how we universally define saturation. And I want you to ask yourself, let's be logical during this conversation, guys. This is a business model. A lot of you guys just heard about it. A lot of you guys heard about it a year ago. A lot of you guys heard about it 5 years ago. It's not like something like, building websites as a business, right? So, there's these website building companies. Everybody I know, if you said to somebody, hey, my buddy, he has a company where he builds websites. Okay, everyone knows what that is. That's pretty common knowledge, right? Back in 2000, like right when the internet was like booming or whatever, I think it was around 2000. That's when the whole universe was supposed to collapse, the world was supposed to end. But not that would have been foreign. If you'd said, "Hey, yeah, my buddy has a company that builds websites," I would have been like, What? What's a website?" Right? But now it's so commonplace. You could probably, this is just me just talking out loud. You could probably say that might be something you could argue is saturated. A company a website building company. Okay. But when we're talking about building simple websites to then rank them in Google, generic websites, and then rent them to local business owners, guys, this is something I talk to this every single day when people ask me what I do. I say this and they're like, well, that's so smart. I've never even thought about that, but it makes sense. It's so simple. Okay. So anyway, that's how we would define saturation. I want you to be logical, thinking about that definition, thinking about something like website building company. Okay. Okay. So now let's talk about how few people are actually doing this. So guys, tell me if you guys can relate to this. Obviously, you can't tell me through this. You could put it in the comments. You could put it in the whatever, and you could just think about it internally. But like when you first heard about this business model, I know for me, I was like, it made so much sense. It was completely novel. At the same time, it blew my mind, but in a very logical way. It made sense. It wasn't like it blew my mind. Like I hear about some of this AI stuff and I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought that would happen. This is like, it makes sense, but I never thought about it that way. But oh my gosh, I wish I would have been the first one to think about it because that's a really cool model, right? And like when you first hear about it, you're like, oh my gosh, I think I've discovered gold. And you've never heard about it. So you just kind of, some of you naturally have this what's the word? Scarcity, that's the word. A scarcity mindset, not an abundance mindset. You kind of want to keep it a secret. You don't want to tell anyone about it, right? Then you start looking into it, right? You start listening to podcasts. You go on to Spotify, you type in digital real estate, and then you find my podcast, right? You go onto YouTube, you type in digital real estate, you find my YouTube channel or other people's YouTube channel. And guess what? Now the algorithms are feeding you stuff. They're feeding you stuff. They're feeding you stuff. And you're like, you're seeing it everywhere. You're seeing me, you see this other guy, you've seen all. It's like, dude, everybody's in this, right? You're in these groups, and all of a sudden, all your content, all your posts, everything is digital real estate, is rank and rent. And all of a sudden, in your mind, it seems like everybody is doing it. But what you have to realize is that in comparison with everything else, in comparison with other business models, almost no one is doing this. We are in this little tiny, tiny micro corner of the internet doing this model that is so obscure and nobody knows about it, right? Just because there's a few thousand people in a Facebook group, nobody knows about this compared to any other business model. Okay. There has been no big celebrity, no big, influencer or business influencer that has even talked about this model. And for that reason, it's just this little unknown like corner of the internet that's kind of our little secret, right? And so you have to just be logical here and realize in comparison with a drop shipping, in comparison with, and that, guys, everybody, I remember back in 2015 when I was looking at doing something besides door to door, my neighbor was selling derma rollers, I think they're called. He was selling them through Amazon. And that was so novel. I remember telling people, I'm like, dude, my neighbor, he's making like X amount of money and he sells freaking derma rollers on Amazon. How crazy is that? He just works at home. And it was like the most freaking novel idea. Now, everybody knows somebody that makes money on Amazon, selling products on Amazon, has an e-com store, has an Etsy shop, right? These are models you could argue are saturated. But like genuinely, besides the people you met inside this group, how many of your other contacts, your other colleagues, your other friends actually do this? Almost none. Okay. And if they do, it's probably because you met them through these things. Okay. Here's a test I want you guys to do for yourself. If you guys don't believe me, this is the litmus test. This is a just a pound the pavement kind of a test. Okay, I want you to go ask 10 people, any 10 that are outside of this world, because obviously if they're inside this world, then they're going to know about this. But just randomly 10. Okay, people that you've never talked to this about before, that you have never talked about this. I want you to go ask 10 people. Say, hey, do you know what digital real estate is, or do you know what rank and rent is, or do you know what website rentals is? And guess what? All 10 of them, maybe there will be one person, maybe, but most likely 10 out of 10 are going to say, what are you talking about, dude? What website rentals? So they're going to say digital real estate. Like, you mean like the metaverse, or you mean like that NFT fungible token thing, or talking about Bitcoin or whatever, right? That's what they're going to answer. And you're going to go, no, but let me explain it to you. And you're going to just tell them, you're going to say, look, it's like this. You build a website, very simple website. You rank it on Google. You do a little bit of like, it's called SEO. You optimize it for Google. It'll rank at the top of Google. And then the phone calls that come off the website, you're going to sell them to a local business owner. You rank it, you rent it. Done. Or you explain to them, just like the real estate example, instead of building a house, you build a website. Instead of getting a tenant, you get a business owner. Instead of doing leads, or sorry, instead of getting a place to live, you're selling leads. And guess what? Every single one of those 10 is their eyes are going to light up and they're going to go, that's so smart. How the heck, dude, that's so smart. How'd you think? Especially if you get into it more and you're like, yeah. And guess what? You own the website. Because what I started to realize is that sometimes I don't explain it properly because I just assume they know. We own the website, baby. We own the freaking asset that we're building. And guess what? If Joe that we're selling the leads to today decides to go sideways on us, or decides that he's going to go and get a new truck and use his $700,000 a month to look rich on a new truck, we're going to go sell him to Buck, right? And Buck's money spends the same way as Joe's money, or John, or whoever I said at the beginning. Okay. So guys, if you do that same example and you go ask people, hey, do you know what selling on Amazon is? Do you know what fulfilled by Amazon? Do you know what dropped? You're going to realize like over half, if not more, of the people that you ask know exactly what you're talking about. Okay. It's a way more well-known. And guys, we need more people to know about this model, right? And I've said this on previous episodes, but the laws of marketing state that the more familiar a person is with a product or service, the more apt they are to buy. Quit having a scarcity mentality. Guys, this is not near as saturated as you guys have in your heads. Okay. On the spectrum of saturated, zero saturation and completely saturated. Okay. I would put, FBA, Amazon stuff like a 6, maybe a 5. Amazon might even be like a 4 compared to other stuff, right? Compared to some of these other online businesses. And if that's the case, what do you think this is? Rank and rent, digital real estate. Like, think about when you heard about this and how many people you've ran into that are doing this just on the street. Very freaking few. Okay. Now, a couple more things I want to cover. There are going to be certain niches that are going to be more saturated than they were 8 years ago. Duh, right? 8 years ago, nobody was doing this. So if you went and typed in tree service Las Vegas, you probably weren't going to see a marketer trying to get leads because it wasn't a known business model in that specific niche. So yes, in some of these niches that I've been talking about for years, concrete, I've been yelling in the mic about concrete for 2 years. And I've been doing concrete for 4 years, right? Since 2020. I've been doing, well, that's more like 2022. Actually, 2022 was my concrete era. 2020 was tree service, kind of where I focused on tree service. 2021 was artificial grass. 2022 was concrete. So I've been going hard for 2 years. The end of it, yeah, it's 2 years. I've been screaming about concrete. Let me correct myself. 2 years. Okay. Yes, there's going to be more marketers that are doing concrete websites because that's what we're talking about. But guys, that's just concrete, right? And what you guys don't understand is that just because, and we're going to get to that in just a second. Actually, I'm going to wait on that just for just a second, okay? But I want you to realize that the amount of increased competition, contextually, it's negligent. Okay. It's negligible. It's probably the better word. I think that's the correct way to say it. Okay. It makes no difference. It's very, very small. Okay. But again, because now we're looking for it, it's just like that analogy when you start looking, you're like, oh, I'm going to get a red car. I have a red, like, guys, before I got a red Tesla, I bought a red Tesla and like all of a sudden I started seeing them pop up everywhere. It's like that stupid analogy, and it's true. You start seeing them everywhere. We bought a Grand Wagoneer, and all of a sudden I'm like, dude, everyone has a freaking Grand Wagoneer. I thought these were special. They're not special at all, right? That's just the reality. Okay. So another thing you guys need to know is that just because, and I've made YouTube videos on this, I've talked about this at length, but just because you see another marketer in a city and a niche, right? Las Vegas concrete, Las Vegas tree service, St. George duct cleaning. I go in, I see, oh my gosh, there's another marketer ranked on page one. That does not mean you cannot be in there as well. Okay. What you have to remember is most people do not dare pick up this thing. They're scared to death of this little cell phone. Scared to death. They don't dare call a business owner. They know how to build a website, they know how to get leads, but they don't dare call a business owner. So just because you see another website in there and you're like, okay, that's probably a lead generator site, which is probably true, does not mean they have a client. Okay. And what I always do is I go into a market and I start doing my research. I just look at that. I'm like, hey, if I didn't know what a lead generation website looked like, I would just assume that's Bob's website down the street. And I'm going to treat that website just like he's another business owner. And if I do that and it still fits my criteria for what a good city and a good niche is, I'm still going to go into it. And then sometimes I'll go a step further and I'll call the website and I'll see if they're actually even going to a business owner. And most times they're not. Most times they're going to voicemail, or they're going to the person that owns the website. And they're like, yeah, like they have no idea what they're doing. And I know everyone thinks that getting the leads is the hard part, getting the website's hard, but that's the freaking easiest part. But I don't want you guys to be scared about seeing another marketer, because I'm telling you, sometimes those are the greatest opportunities. Sometimes that tells you like, hey, that is a good city and niche because somebody else has done the research. And if they knew what they were doing, then that's why they decided to do it. Okay. So I'll give you an example. My free group has 6.1 thousand members at the time of this recording, and at least 30 to 40%, my estimation of those people, these guys know they have existing websites. They know how to build a website. They know how to get leads, but they don't know how to turn it into money. That's why I started Digital Landows. I realized everyone was out there teaching how to build a stupid website and get it on ranked on Google, but no one was making money. It was like a big hobby. It was like a big joke. Nobody was making money in these groups. I was in groups with 7,000 people. Nobody was making money. And I mean that like, yeah, there's a couple guys making money, but no one was making real money, right? And the majority of people weren't making any money. Okay. So just so you know, just because you see another marketer does not mean you can't go into that city and that niche. Now, I'm going to give you a quick example. I used to believe that until I started doing the research on St. George Tree Service. You guys can go do this right now. I did the research on St. George Tree Service. And by the way, if you research that right now, you're going to see my website near the top or at the top. And when I did it, it looked good. The search volume was good. Everything matched up. And then you know what happened? I saw another lead generation website and I knew it was a lead generation website. And dude, my freaking heart sank. I was like, oh my gosh, I missed it. I missed it. This is sad. Like I had all these thoughts. And then what I did, I was like, well, let me call and see if they actually have a client and who it is. Called, and it went straight to voicemail. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I started doing some research. I found out the name of the owner of the website on the Who Is tool, which you guys can go and there's ways to look up who owns a website. I got the name. I plugged it into one of my Facebook groups. Sure enough, this was somebody in one of my Facebook groups. So I'm like, you know what? What if so I'm going to tram a little bit ice here. What if I just reach out to that person, buy the website from them? I'm at the top of Google, and then boom. So that's what I did. Sent this really nice message. Hey, I live in St. George. So do you, I think. And I would love to work something out because it looks like you have a client. And this person couldn't have been more rude to me. They sent me a nasty message, basically, go eat sand. And it really just kind of pissed me off. And so out of spite, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go build a website. I don't even care if I get a client. I'm going to go outrank that person because of the way that they acted. And they're going to wish that they sold me that website. And that's exactly what I freaking did. And guys, I went, I got a deal before it ever even ranked because I did my strategy, which is I pre-sold the deal. I got a couple leads, boom, 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 signed the contract, got the credit card, and got the deal. And if you look at it right now, I am ranking at the top of Google. And that person that refused to sell me that website is nowhere to be found. Okay. On most searches. Do not let that. And by the way, I've made thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars from that stupid little website. And by the way, just as a side note, I signed that website deal, that lead gen deal in a gas station parking lot in early 2020 when the whole world was shut down because we couldn't go into people's houses or whatever. And I had that client for a long freaking time. And that client decided to go and do their own website, whatever, whatever, whatever. But I made a lot of money. I made over $30,000, I believe, on that website. And I don't want to, I say I believe because I'm not 100% sure, but it's close or more than $30,000. Okay. So, next thing I want to cover really, really quick, guys, is you got to realize that just because a lot of people start this, most people quit. Okay. A lot of these sites that you're going to run into, even if you do see them, even though it doesn't matter, a lot of these people quit. They're done. They built the site, they couldn't get a client, and they're like, you know what? I'm done. It was cool while it lasted. Guys, I got two people messaging me this morning, like, hey, I was in this other program and I gave up, and I got sidetracked and I couldn't make money right away, and I didn't know how to sell a flat fee deal, and I didn't know how to pre-sell, and I kind of gave up, but I want to get back to it, right? But they give up on these websites. So you have to realize that that's the reality. A lot of these people actually give up. And guys, for those of you that are smart, the first thing that you're going to do when you find a good city in a niche and you see a site is you reach out to these people, see if it's still active and see if they have a client. And if they don't, just offer to buy the asset. They've already done the work. Go buy that thing for 500 bucks, 1,000 bucks. Like literally, then you take the skill set that I teach you of the sales and you go plug a client in and boom, it's like going and buying a property that's completely like a foreclosure property and realizing, hey, or maybe not a foreclosure property, but a property that's valued really low because they can't get a renter. And you're like, dude, I already have one in tow because in your mind, you have a sales process for how to go find renters, aka business owners. And you're like, yeah, I'll take that. But it's not worth it because you don't have a business owner. So give me half of what you're offering. Give me 500 bucks. I'll take the website. You get 500 bucks. I have my process. Boom. I'm going to get a tenant in there. I'm going to start making money. That's a great freaking strategy to do. Okay. Also, guys, we got to remember new businesses start every single day. Okay. I looked this stat up on US Today. It said this is I just copied and pasted this. It said although around 595,000 businesses close each year because we know a lot of businesses fail, 627,000 new businesses are created on average every single year, which means there is a net overall growth of around 32,000 new businesses a year. 32,000 new businesses every single year. Okay. We keep talking about concrete, tree service, spray foam insulation, mason. We're talking about 5 niches, right? I love those niches. I made millions in those niches. But think about all the niches we haven't tried. Think about all the niches that we're about to get into. Think about the niches we're not even thinking about. Think about the niches that you don't really know about because they're only in certain pockets of the country. But you could go statewide. And you could go in one niche in one state and you can make millions of dollars if you get into the right niche. Okay. That's what you don't realize. You're one niche away from being a millionaire doing this freaking website rental business. Okay. Also, we haven't even tapped into other countries. Apart from the US, Canada, Australia, I do have one student from Digital Landlords that's doing this in New Zealand because he's from New Zealand, literally making 40,000 USD. His name's Michael Vale. You guys can go look him up. I've got his case studies. Go look on YouTube. You can find his name. Type in Nick Wood, Michael Vale. You're going to find him. Go listen to his story. $40,000 in New Zealand. We haven't even talked about the Dubais. We haven't even tapped into the UK, a little bit in the UK, but not much. We haven't tapped into any of these other countries. And guess what? The rest of the world seems to catch up to the West in the way that we search, in the way that we do business and everything else. And what happens when people in all these other countries start to do business that way? When the connectivity in Africa starts to become such that you actually Google when you need a service instead of asking your neighbor. What happens then? Now, I know maybe Africa's not the best example, but I think you get what I'm saying. We haven't even tapped into other countries. Okay? Guys, these are all things you have to remember. Also, guys, I just want to remind you, last two things is I want to remind you, you only need 10 to 20 clients at $1,000 a month to become completely free. Okay. Now, I'm not saying you're going to make millions on that, but to become free, to quit your job, to be able to have your time back, to have your time freedom, your location freedom, your financial freedom, you only need 10 to 20 clients. That's if you're charging $1,000 a month. If you want to double it, if you want to go into bigger niches and charge 1,500, 2,500 bucks, we just did an estimate or did a proposal last Thursday for $10,000. We give them the option of $10,000 per month, $7,500 per month. Okay. That's a big deal. Right? It's $100,000 plus into our pockets. I guess that's gross, but that's added to our top line revenue on one deal. You don't need that many of these deals to become free. And the last thing I want to say to you guys is that the window to do this is not going to be open forever. I don't want to scare you. I'm not, yes, I want to create urgency because I want you guys to start today. And I see too many people being lackadaisical about when they're going to start. Oh, I'm going to get this. I'm going to do that. We need to start today because the window's not going to be open forever. And I always go back to what my dad taught me. about farming, which is when the sun is shining, it's time to make hay. There is a window to put up hay. There's a window to make the bread, the cheddar, the dough. And if you miss it, you miss it and you got to wait till next season. And next season might be the next business opportunity. And the next business opportunity might not be as good as this one. Okay. All of us wish we would have gotten into crypto when it was 25 bucks a coin. All of us. But none of us had the foresight to do it. Now we got a business. And I'm not saying this is comparable to crypto, but I'm saying this is a business model that has been tried and true. Millionaires have been produced from it. Average people like me have done this and made millions. So why the heck can't you? Guys, if you like this episode, I beg. We always say, I always revert to Creole. And instead of please, we say, I beg. And that's the same thing as please share this episode. Share it with a friend. Don't be scared about sharing this business model, thinking that, oh, you know what, if he gets into it, I'm not going to have, or she gets into it, I'm not going to have as many opportunities. Yes, you are. Quit having a scarcity mentality. Also, just for a reminder, we have a free Facebook group in the description. We have a Discord channel in the description, whichever one is your flavor. We have a mini course, a free mini course at rentsimplesites.com. And then for those of you that want to go fast and stop freaking wasting time, apply today at digitallandlords.com. Remember, guys, money loves speed. And I'll see you on the next episode. I'm out.